Yeah, hi viewers, how you doing? Today we are gonna learn about inter-vlan routing. Inter-vlan routing is it used to communicate. Uh, it is used to communicate two broadcast domain, two different broadcast domains. Just like practically speaking, generally there are two VLANs. A VLAN is nothing but separate broadcast domain. Let's say we have two VLANs, VLAN 2 and VLAN 3. VLAN 2 is one broadcast domain, VLAN 3 is another broadcast domain. So generally, basically, two different VLANs cannot communicate with each other. But in some cases, we may require to communicate two different VLANs in for accessing any server kind of things. So in order to achieve this requirement, we use inter-vlan routing. Yeah, so inter-vlan routing, how we will check now how we will configure inter-vlan routing, and we will also test it whether from these two VLANs after configuring VLAN inter-vlan routing how this VLAN is going to communicate with this thing. We will just ping from this machine VLAN which is in VLAN 2 to the this machine which is in VLAN 3. If the ping if this is reachable, then our requirement will be fulfilled. Let's go ahead and do it. First, what I will do, I will configure one L2 VLAN at L2 layer 2 switch. Uh, Then I will create a gateway for this VLAN in the layer 3 switch or a router. You can use router also. But in my scenario, I used a layer 3 switch. A layer 3 switch is nothing but a switch. A multi-layer switch is nothing but a switch which has a routing capabilities. You can configure EHRP, OSPF, and some route. You can also use this switch for routing. In layer 2 you can, it is not possible. So I'm going to create a gateway here for this VLAN, and also I'm gonna create a gateway for VLAN 3 different gateway. Okay, so this VLAN will be under 192.168.1.0 network, and this VLAN will be configured with 192.168.2.0 network. So these two are different networks. So to communicate between two different networks, we must need a layer 3 device or a router. Huh? So without router also we can configure, and how this can be achieved between two VLANs, how they will communicate, we are going to see it, and we are going to configure the switches to fulfill this requirement. So first of all, what I will do, I almost done this lab actually. So I will show you how I did. So first I will configure this machine within this network. I did that. I just configured 192.168.1.2 as a this machine IP, and I have given a gateway IP as 1.1, which we are going to configure as a gateway in a layer 3 switch. So I have configured this. Now I'm going to configure layer 2 VLAN here, a VLAN here, and I'm going to assign this port to the VLAN 2. Almost I already did. I will show you one more time. So config VLAN 2 created, exit, Then I'm going to move this port where the this user machine is connected. I'm going to move it to the switchboard access VLAN 2. I did that. Now this machine is in VLAN 2 and VLAN 2 is created. Now I'm gonna configure a layer 3 interface here and config. So what, first I have to create a layer 2 VLAN, then I have to create an interface, VLAN interface, then IP address. What is IP address which we are gonna assign? As I already told you, when I am configuring the user machine IP address, I am gonna give 192.168.1.1. 255.255. Of course, subnet mask is also mandatory. And given /24 like this. So I did this. L3 gateway is created, and see we are using a we are using a VLAN here. We are configuring VLAN here, and we are configuring VLAN here. But in order to pass this packet to the layer 3 switch, we must configure these two ports as a trunk. Configure FA interface FA01 switch port mode trunk. Just configure it. Done. FA0/1 is configured. Here also we need to configure a trunk to pass the VLAN information. Interface FA0 switch port mode trunk. Done. Now we will test. We will test 1.2 whether it is pingable to its own IP. Yes, it is pingable. We will ping gateway. Yes, it is reachable. Now this side also we have to make this same setup. I already did. I will show you all. 192.168.2.2, and this is in different subnet as I told you. See, and I have assigned 2.2 IP and 2.1. This is different network IP address, and I have also configured this port on VLAN 3 just similar to this side VLAN 2. I will just show you the configuration, that's all. So how I did, yes, so enable, yeah, show run. See, this FA0/2 is already moved to VLAN 3. FA0/2 where this machine is connected, I moved, and I also configured VLAN 3. I'll show you VLAN. Yeah, VLAN 3 is created. Now I also configured the uplink from this layer 2 switch to the layer 3 switch. I have also configured a trunk. I'll show you that also. So just you can verify this using command show interface trunk. So what is configured as a trunk? FA0/1 is on trunking mode. FA0/1 is on trunking mode. This is also configured, and FA0/2 also you want me to show interface trunk. See that FA0/2 also is in trunking mode. So these two are configured as a trunk. Now we will be able to reach till L3 layer 3 switch. Now what we need to verify whether VLAN is created. VLAN 3 is created. Now what else we need to verify? Whether we have configured a L3 interface, VLAN interface. That is also I have done already. I'll just show you. See, this VLAN 3 is configured as 2.1 and VLAN 2 is configured as 1.1. So these two are configured now. Now usually generally VLAN to VLAN will not be able to communicate until unless there is a layer 3 gateway routing. But in this case I have configured IP routing in this switch already. Actually no IP routing, I am removing this. Actually I already configured before making this video, so I did that. Now see this VLAN will never communicate with this VLAN, and I will show you ping 1.1 1.2 its own IP. Now 1.1 its gateway. Now 2.1 is pingable, but 2.2, what is 2.2? 2.2 is nothing but 192.168.2.2 is nothing but just user machine. Whether it is reachable or not, you can have to check. See this, now this is not pinging because there is no routing, there is no layer 3 gateway between these two VLANs. That's why it's not able to communicate, and these two are in different domain, different broadcast domain. VLAN 3 is different broadcast domain, VLAN 2 is different broadcast domain. Now if you want to make communication between these two, then you need a routing. This switch till now it is just acting like a layer 2 device. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna enable IP routing in here. I'm gonna make this as a routing device. Now what will happen, what will happen? What will happen? A routing will be formed and two connected interfaces or will be in the routing table. And this, so all by default all connected interfaces will be able to communicate with each other. Yeah, that I will now these two should be able to communicate because we have enabled IP routing as a layer 3 gateway. Till now 2.2 is not reachable. As soon as I enable that IP routing, now you will see it start pinging. Till before it was not pinging because IP routing is not enabled, nothing but that switch will also acting as a just layer 2 device. What when it is become a routing device, it start pinging. That means what is our requirement? A requirement is nothing but communicating between these two VLANs, and this is achievable using the layer 3 gateway or a routing device using a inter-VLAN routing concept. That's all. Thank you very much.